bus shacks, and we're transporting people here so that they can be in a warm teepee.
Tonight, people come together in Winnipeg to help people who live outside in the bitter cold.
Right from the beginning, our services were very much focused on urban Indigenous populations.
And half a century of helping, an organization that assists the needy in Edmonton celebrates a 50-year birthday. Good evening and welcome to APTN National News. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Many cities across the country are in the depths of a deep freeze, heightening concerns for those living unsheltered. In Winnipeg, with the country's largest Indigenous population, which is disproportionately affected by homelessness, grassroots organizations and the public are doing what they can to make sure people are warm. Here's Daryl Stranger with more.
In recent weeks, a cold spell brought bitterly cold temperatures which can reach below -40 at night. And those temperatures can kill. In Winnipeg, grassroots groups like N.W.T and Mama Bear Clan are doing what they can to help. Warming tents and teepees have been set up to help keep Winnipeg's homeless warm, and members of the public are stepping up as well.
We have all kinds of groups coming together and working in unison, working together. We're like brothers and sisters for a common goal. It's a passion out here. You got Mama Bear, you got OPK, Initiative, all kinds of groups are coming. It's just that there's a flow of donations, person power, wood, food, clothing, parkas, everything. Everybody's coming together. Everybody's working together, and it's unbelievable.
Over 60% of Winnipeg's homeless are Indigenous. Many go to temporary shelters if there is room, or bus shelters to stay warm. Bourbonnier says they are checking these shelters to bring people out of the cold and into the huts.
We're going around every night. We're visiting all the bus shacks, and we're transporting people here so that they can be in a warm teepee, so that they can be around the culture, so that they can smudge, so that they can hear the songs, and talk to elders. So it's been unbelievable. It's been so fantastic. One of the greatest things I've ever been involved in.
The city of Winnipeg is also opening up some libraries for those homeless to have a warm place to stay. Manitoba Liberal leader Dougald Lamont says the current measures in place aren't good enough.
It's not enough to just say, well, you're in a shelter right now and we're going to make sure you're warm for 12 hours and then we're going to kick you out on the street. We need permanent housing. For people who need mental health supports, they need mental health. For people who need addiction support, they need that. But the important thing is, the first step is recognizing that all these people who are struggling are human beings, and that they deserve to be treated with dignity and respect like the rest of us.
Volunteers expect to be at the site for the next 2 weeks at least. Daryl Stranger, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
We want to hear what you think. Has shelter been adequately addressed where you live? Is there a program that's working in your community that you want to share with others? Here's how to reach us. You can send your emails to news@aptn.ca. Leave a comment on aptnnews.ca. You can also find us, of course, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and we're now even on TikTok. Follow APTN News and join the conversation. See our latest stories and share your thoughts. The Prime Minister made his usual COVID update today, announcing $53 million to battle new COVID-19 variants, and he warned people to remain vigilant as a third wave of the pandemic may be looming. But he also was questioned about a story that APTN broke this week involving what the government knew before the violence that erupted over Mi'kmaq harvesting rights. Trudeau was asked why the RCMP stood by while commercial fishers burned and destroyed Mi'kmaq property, and why the Department of Fisheries and Oceans failed to act as well as Mi'kmaq fishers were attacked on the water, and if he is holding anybody to account. The PM had this to say.
All different jurisdictions and the police of jurisdictions involved in this. We've certainly worked very closely with the Mi'kmaq over the past many months to resolve this issue and bring non-Indigenous fishers along. It is unacceptable to have seen any form of violence and intimidation of Indigenous fishers in this situation, and people have questions that they are expecting answers to, and I am one of those people.
Back to COVID, Trudeau had faced questions today over Canada's vaccine rollout. Despite the recent delays, Trudeau said that Canada will remain on track and will have a total of 84 million doses of the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine combined by the end of September. 4 million doses of the Pfizer vaccine will arrive by the end of March, and Trudeau says millions more will follow in the coming months.
We'll be getting the next doses sooner. We've brought forward millions of doses into Q2, so that we will receive 10.8 million doses of Pfizer between April and June, and all of our remaining doses of Pfizer in Q3 before the end of September. That is, we will have received 40 million doses from Pfizer by the end of September. On top of this news on Pfizer, I can also share today that we've purchased 4 million additional doses of the Moderna vaccine, which will be arriving over the summer.
Canada's top doctor says we're now 2/3 of the way down the current COVID-19 curve. New COVID-19 cases and severe illnesses are on the decline across the country, but Dr. Theresa Tam says that they continue to monitor growth of the variants of concern and warns of a possible third wave.
We can all gather strength from the fact that our collective Canadian effort got us here, and that we have some strong tools in the form of COVID-19 vaccines to light our way to a brighter future. But we'll need to keep putting the brakes on the spread of new virus variants of concern in Canada. There are now 8 provinces reporting more than 429 B.1.1.7 variants and 28 B.1.351 variants and 1 P1 variant.
It's time for us to take a break, but when we come back, the Northwest Territories has its sights set on 700 squatter cabins near Yellowknife, but they are on Dene territory. We will tell you all about that after the break. Welcome back. A warming tent named for Raphael Andre opened in downtown Montreal just over a week ago. This week, another large-scale installation was created in his honor, but it's only visible after nightfall. For the next few days, the exterior facade of the open-door shelter, which Andre frequented, will be lit up with his photo, thanks to an installation created by Map Montreal and Ojibwe artist Isaac Murdoch. Images of Andre's family, written messages, and traditional Innu music will also be showcased until February 14th. Edmonton police made what they believe is the second largest bust of Carfentanil in the city. They arrested 2 people and confiscated about $300,000 of illegal drugs. Officers found several drugs, including cocaine, methamphetamine, and 583 grams of carfentanil, which is 100 times more deadly than regular fentanyl. Just a few grains of the drug can be fatal.
It's exponentially more potent, and the problem with mixing a really potent drug with adulterants that they use to dilute it down is that it doesn't always get mixed correctly. So it's possible that you're going to get a couple of small portions of that potent drug in a really small quantity. And that's what causes a lot of the issues with the overdoses.
A longtime Edmonton staple is celebrating a big milestone this year. Boyle Street Community Services have been helping the homeless and needy for 50 years. APTN's Chris Stewart has more.
Since 1971, Boyle Street Community Services have been there to help with those who need a place to stay, a warm meal, or just a friendly smile. Over 12,000 people each year are helped by the Boyle Street Community Services in locations across the city. And a focus right from the start was to help the Indigenous population, which was quickly growing in Edmonton. Freya Hammond-Thrasher researched the 50-year history and is a communications coordinator.
Right from the beginning, our services were very much focused on urban Indigenous populations. And I'd like to think that we've continued that work as best as we can today. So about 70% of the clients that we see are usually from Indigenous heritage, and providing cultural supports like we do is just so important in people's journey.
Back in 1971, it started small, and over the decades, Boyle Street began to grow.
At the beginning, I think we had about 9 different services. So these included mental health. We had a drop-in space that served everyone regardless of religion or background or substance use. We had legal aid services for people who are involved in the criminal justice system. And yeah, those were kind of the main services that we had when we first started. And now we have more than 40 programs in Edmonton.
Now they offer permanent housing opportunities, drop-in centers, and even banking for those who don't have ID. And often the programs come directly from ideas from community members and staff.
The reason I think our programs are so successful is that a lot of the time the ideas come from our community members and our staff who have lived experience as Indigenous peoples or as people who have been homeless in the past or experienced poverty. So I think we've had really good feedback overall.
Freya Hammond-Thrasher says evolving with the changing times has helped Boyle Street Community Services continue for half a century and counting.
The challenges that we were addressing at the beginning are not the same as the ones that we're addressing today. Poverty and homelessness in Edmonton has changed so much. And I think our existence today is just really a testament to the innovation that we've been able to have in our programs and continuing to serve people and meet their needs where they're at.
Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
Well, we need to take another break, but when we come back, I will tell you about a new fight in Northwest Territories involving squatter cabins. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's time now for our photo of the day. Betty Spence was born on the Little Red Reserve near Prince Albert, Saskatchewan in 1918. Yesterday, she celebrated her 103rd birthday here in Manitoba, right here in Winnipeg. Happy birthday to Betty. We would love to see more pictures like that. People, landscapes, wildlife, send your photos to share at aptn.ca, and your photo might be our next photo of the day. Well, it's time now to take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Off to the east coast, we've got -6 and some cloud for Fredericton, -4 and snow for Charlottetown. The Grand River, -19 and snow, sunshine, and -14 for Nain. Quebec City, -10 and sunny skies. Shibubu, -16 and sunny there too. Peterborough, -11 and snow. Sault Ste. Marie, -13, some flurries expected. So Lookout, -25 and snow, same with Big Trout Lake. Sunshine for northern Manitoba, -24 in Churchill, -27 in God's Lake. Down south, sunny too, -25 for Barons River and Princess Harbour. Still sunshine in southern Saskatchewan, -28 for Saskatoon and Yorkton. -21 for Stony Rapids, -26 for La Ronge. Sunshine for northern Alberta, -23 for Fort Chip and High Level. -21 in sunshine for Edmonton, -24 for Lethbridge and Medicine Hat, sunny skies. 0 and snow for Campbell River, 1s for Vancouver and Victoria and some flurries there. -20 and sunny for Fort Nelson, -14 in Prince George, sunshine. Old Crow, -31, clear skies. Rock River, -8 and sunshine. Wati and Yellowknife, both -24, lots of sun up in the Northwest Territories too. Inuvik, -15. Tuck, -21. Sax Harbor, -17. -24 for Chesterfield. New Yacht, got some cloud there, -18. Calliope, -20, clear skies. Iqaluit, -18 and clear. The government of the Northwest Territory says the time has come to put an end to squatter cabins. The First Nations most affected by unattended cabins welcomed the announcement, but still have questions on the budgets and timelines. Charlotte Mort-Jacobs explains.
Here's a squatter. And another. And, oh, another one.
There's a nice cabin right there.
Fred Sangres of the Yellowknives Dene First Nation has seen the encroachment of his traditional territory for decades. This cabin is rightfully owned by a Yellowknives Dene member who relies on trapping and harvesting for a living. But it's sandwiched in between squatters.
Like that one there, he built a house there. He was there for a long time. He had a lot of loose dogs, you know. barking. At the same time, it drives the moose and other animals away. So what happened with this guy is he's not making a living anymore. He's having a hard time.
While the Yellowknives Dene have been surveying the land and reporting squatters to the territorial government for years, little has been done to address the issue. Until now.
Thank you very much for joining us here today to discuss the Department of Lands is doing to address unauthorized occupancy of public land.
This week, the territorial government announced new measures to deal with illegal occupancy on public lands. Cabin owners by Indigenous people asserting rights will have some protection.
We have also created a process whereby if an Indigenous member receives a posting notice, they will have information on how to proceed with making their assertions after they've received the posting notice.
Notices like this are being posted to cabins the Department of Lands believe are unauthorized. But it's complicated. Cabins built prior to devolution, April 1st, 2014, could be grandfathered into leases. Before 2014, public lands were managed by the federal government. While an issue across the north, the Yellowknives Dene bear the brunt of the problem. The Lands Department estimates out of the 700 unauthorized structures on public lands in the N.W.T, roughly 550 are in the North Slave region, closer to Yellowknife.
There's a winter road that goes along.
Ernest Betsina, chief of the Yellowknives Dene First Nation community of Delo, says the next step will be ensuring his membership are the ones with boots on the ground.
But N.W.T has come up with a budget, so I'm hoping that monies would flow to YKDFN, so that way we can get our departments, get our people out there to inspect these new buildings.
The Yellowknives Dene First Nation are part of the Acacho land claim, which has not yet been settled. Leaders like Chief Edward Sangres of the YKDFN community of Detta say they've repeatedly asked the GNWT to stop issuing leases until the land claim is settled.
People have to come back to the First Nations and say, listen, I have a cabin on traditional territory, what do I do? Those are the questions that people are asking right now of us. And GNWT is relinquishing the recreational lease without authorization, without consultation to Yellowknife Dene.
The GNWT says the project will cost more than $6 million and is expected to take the rest of the decade to complete. But this doesn't give everyone peace of mind.
I think the government of North Territory needs to spruce themselves up and say we need to find another way regime, how we do land management, how we take care of the land. Us at GNWT, we can no longer manage the land. It's gone beyond us, so we have to pull in the Aboriginal leaders.
Anyone who receives eviction notices will have 30 days to contact the Department of Lands. Charlotte Morit-Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
3 Indigenous men have died in Prince George RCMP custody in just 3 years, and their families want answers. It's the center of an APTN Investigates documentary, Death in Custody. Part 1 aired last week. Take a look.
Derail was his nickname.
There's all of his friends that miss him and has come back to this spot. And
what about him?
Yeah, this one has been here particularly since the incident happened. This one has been here since the original picture was taken, and since then you can notice that the person's come back a couple of times. We're not the only ones that have come back to remember him. And
Lily Speed Namox and her mother Tracy Speed stand where Dale Culver died while being taken in police custody in 2017. A bystander filmed the RCMP arrest in Prince George, British Columbia.
I hope for justice. I hope for justice not only just for my dad, but for all the other people that have died in police custody.
We will follow the family of Dale Culver in their quest for answers. Did race play a factor in his death?
So we don't actually know the cause of death.
And Culver isn't the only Indigenous man to die in custody in Prince George.
Well, I think the systemic racism in the police force is nothing new to First Nations.
So racism in the police, discrimination in policing is not just the structures, it's not just individual bad apples, it's individual people, it is the culture that doesn't hold those people accountable.
Civil rights groups are calling for accountability, and a board that polices police is calling for charges in one of those deaths. The reporter behind the documentary is Lee Wilson, and he joins me now to talk about part 2 of Death in Custody, which airs tonight. Hi, Lee. So part 1 of Death in Custody aired last week. It laid out 3 cases. What has been the reaction of BC civil rights groups to these matters?
Yeah, BC Civil Liberties is calling for more police oversight. They want civilian oversight to be able to oversee the RCMP.
So criminal charges are recommended in one of the matters. Can you explain what that's all about?
Yeah, definitely. The BC IAO is recommending 5 charges against officers. So 3 charges would be on the use of force, 2 charges in the use of force, then 3 charges would be on obstruction of justice. And it could take up to 3 years for the families to for the Crown to move ahead with charges, and the families are doing it with very little support.
So you'll of course be keeping your eyes on whether or not those charges ever come to light. How has the Black Lives Matter movement influenced the cases in Prince George?
Yeah, definitely. The Black Lives Matter movement has sort of had an area where it's been going across Canada, and our criminologist said he's hopeful that there would be changes, but he says those changes usually sometimes take a long time for it to happen.
Okay, well, Lee, we've got Death in Custody tonight, right after APTN National News. That's part 2 of your series. Can't wait to see that. Thanks so much. That was great work.
Thank you, Melissa.
We actually have a little sneak peek for you of what's in store for you right after news. Here's a little bit of part 2 of Death in Custody.
Three years ago, Dale Culver died in police custody in Prince George, British Columbia. His daughter, Lily Speed Damox, has been looking for answers ever since.
That nothing is being done. There's been no apologies from any RCMP, not even just the general RCMP public. As just a general, I'm sorry that this happened to your family, that our people have done this to your people.
British Columbia's Independent Investigation Office has recommended 5 charges for RCMP officers involved in the death of Dale Culver. But the family now waits for the Crown to decide if they move ahead or not. Culver's family has been navigating the legal system with very little support.
You know, it's not normal to have to go through it, so you don't really know. You're having a bad day and you're not quite sure why. Or you got a chip on your shoulder one day and you don't really know why. You see a police officer and your instant fear you feel that we shouldn't have to feel. We live in Canada.
Well, we're all out of the news for you tonight. Thanks for joining me. I'm Melissa Ridge, and stay tuned right now for Lee Wilson's Death in Custody. Have a great night.